Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited to speak with you today, the Cooldown, where we're going to be talking about, key reflections and announcements from Ignite. I'm Michael Heath and joined by
Son Husseinov. We are actually working together, and yeah, we both attended Microsoft Ignite. So many great updates or announcements were made, and we are so excited to share some of them with you.
well, speaking of Cooldown, just coming off the holidays here, Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving, Rofson? I need to cool down from all that food I ate. But
Yeah, so man, it's been fantastic, but I'll keep eating, man. I have 2 more days.
right, we got a long journey ahead here. So what are we going to hop into? Speaking of being thankful, gosh, so much to be thankful for from the Ignite announcements, crazy stuff. We want to dive into just a few, just scratching the surface here. The intelligent layer, the IQ layer, Microsoft Agent 365. So Agent 365 tools. We got some Foundry now, Microsoft Foundry. Agents is MCP, just to name a few. But I want to kick something off here. This was said, Robson, a statement that really stuck with me. AI in the flow of human ambition captured most everything for me, where we're at today, where we're heading to. A lot of times, especially with us as consultants in technology, we focus on the technology, and that's fine too. But this really, for me, brought it back to a human level and said, hey, you know what? Humans are here, tech helps. How are we going to pull this off? How are we going to bring it back into foundationally what this tool is used for? And that's innovation. What are your thoughts? Like, this is big for me.
I totally agree with you. First of all, we can't imagine AI, stand alone. It's here to augment humans, right? So that's where I see like human in the loop. And before like we had just AI tools, you would develop it, it would, do everything by itself. But now we have human in the loop, whether it could be part of Copilot Studio, Agentic Flow, even Foundry, which yesterday I actually discovered you can create workflows and you can add human in the loop. So basically, anytime workflow it receives inputs, in order to generate the output, it would wait for the human to provide go, no go. So as you can see, we can imagine, technology without human, collaboration. So I think it's very exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, and what you just mentioned there, man, that kind of went through the airwaves, kind of just flew by too. The fact that we now have the ability to sort of pause, gather more information from the user, then make a decision, and that sort of tails right into this IQ layer, this intelligent layer. It was announced at Work IQ. Actually, CEO from LinkedIn announced this, which I thought was interesting. And let's be honest, no AI tool right now is the silver bullet. There's pros and cons of every tool, but with Copilot, I think like what I view is sort of lacking at times was that cohesive network of knowledge. You think about LinkedIn and all the data that it holds. And what is LinkedIn? Really, it knows you on a professional level, who you are, who you're connected with. And so I thought it was interesting that he delivers this because that's where we're headed. So we talk about this intelligent layer, which is Work IQ, Fabric IQ, Foundry IQ, and I'll focus on the Work IQ part here. It truly is about using the data that it has, the memory, the relevance of everything, and making inference of all that data. And it's truly remarkable. If we think about where Copilot was and where it's headed before work, you have isolated experiences within these Microsoft 365 apps. In other words, if I ask Word, create this document for me, it's going to take everything that I give it inside that app and do something with it. Now, I could give it information from a Teams meeting I had or an Outlook message that I had earlier in the day, but otherwise, it's just going to use the particular Word Copilot orchestrator and do the thing. And it'll use Graph API, and if it has connectors, great. If we're building something outside of context, but mainly it's going to be app context, and that runs through LLM, Graph, Microsoft Graph, and then it gives us our data, our outcome. Now you think about this particular work IQ layer where it's using these three pillars, the data, the memory, the inference. It's taking that particular experience, but now it's starting to look at, oh, what are the recent documents and meetings and threads and your work patterns and preferences and your collaborators and roles. I worked with Robson. Oh, hey, what did he have to say about this? What are the agents and tools that are relevant for this process? This is huge.
Exactly. Yeah, 100% because and also, first of all, it's spot on, Michael. And here, maybe it would be little, we need some clarification as well, because we used to hear like, okay, M365 Copilot has access to Microsoft Graph, right? That's still true. But Microsoft Graph just connects to your raw data. That's not the intelligence, right? So intelligence would be, this is an Oxam. This is how it works. Besides having access to my raw data like Outlook, MS Teams, Calendar, etc. But now it would develop that intelligence using all this data. So now we have data, there is Rapsan, and between Rapsan and data, there is also intelligence layer. That's where Copilot can get super intelligent. I think this was extremely, this was one of my favorite, announcements. The other thing here, Foundry just announced as well, memory. So we know that agent memory falls into two categories: short term, long term. Short term is happening during any session, every session, right? You kick off the session, you interact, and the memory is gone once you're done with the session. And long term memory is your knowledge, your tools, etc. But now with Foundry, every time you interact with the Foundry agent, it would develop that memory. So imagine like a shopping agent that it would develop intelligence for Michael, and when anytime Michael would come back, it would know that what's Michael's preferences. Of course, this is managed. That means that you need to enable that. It's not by default, but I think this is mind blowing. I mean, look where we are heading.
Let's use the cooking analogy here, since we've all been in the kitchen quite a bit here. Before intelligence layer, you have raw ingredients. You mentioned it, right? You had to give Copilot own grounding logic, own context, indexing a RAG. If that's like, that's it. Like, you have to provide a lot of this, and again, it's very isolated. But then you're taking those raw ingredients and you're pumping them through to the birthday cake. Now you can eat that birthday cake, but it's not great, right? It's just like raw ingredients. You throw the eggs and flour. You got to do something with these to make them edible. And that's where we see not only work IQ, but then what Robson, you just mentioned there, Foundry IQ, Fabric IQ, bring in all the different pieces of data. And so work IQ becomes sort of this default context provider. It says, hey, I already know some things. Let me inherit those: the work context, role context, organizational understanding, memory, tool selection, permissions, labeling, compliance boundaries, all that stuff. Now you're refining the ingredients. You're taking them into the kitchen, you're processing them, putting in the mixer, doing some things with them, and then you get a better tasting birthday cake. We are flying off the rails. We've got so much technology here, and even beforehand, so much technology. How are we going to manage? How are we going to govern it? Tell me about Agent 365. Now that is just in time, right? Like,
No, exactly. I mean, you know, as a technical consultant helping customers, to deploy and extend FC65 Copilot, build custom agents, whether in Copilot Studio or Azure AI Foundry, Microsoft Foundry. Every time I interacted with IT admins, AI admins, or business stakeholders, they're like, all of these are cool, but where we can manage it. Anytime there is an issue where we can turn that off agent right away. So it was little siloed. I mean, obviously, because the field is getting bigger and bigger and more powerful. So having this kind of centralized locations where IT admin can manage the what kind of agents we have, how they can govern it. We can have AI admins, and we can have business stakeholders. Look, all the agents that organization has, whether it's developed in Copilot Studio, in M365 Copilot, using Copilot's real life experience or third-party AI platforms. It gives a like a holistic view for our business stakeholders, seeing that all the relationship. And also, like Agent 365 provides us with the maps, like mapping. So this is similar to application portfolio management. You can here not only see single agents, but their relationship with the overall your enterprise architecture, like what kind of data they use, what kind of agents they interact with it. I think this is really important to understand the downstream impact as well.
I truly believe that Agent 365 is going to evolve into the single source of management inside the tenant. If you look at Show All inside your Agent 365, they have Power Platform Admin Center, 365 Admin Center, and I'm sitting here thinking, got Foundry IQ, we've got Fabric IQ, you got Power Platform over here. Will this eventually be the one-stop shop to manage AI across the Microsoft ecoverse through and through, wall to wall?
That's why we see Agent 365 is embedded in Microsoft 365 Admin Center rather than, as a standalone tool. Another thing here is I was playing with Foundry agents yesterday. You can now build and publish your Foundry agents to M365 Copilot and Teams, which is it's really great. But also, if you want to share with your organization, you need to submit for an admin approval. And where, as an admin, you can approve it, Agent 365. So you see like all controls coming into one area, and that's really the main thing, like centralized locations for IT admins and AI admins to manage this. And also, let's remember, Agent 365 works with Microsoft Entra. That's where you would register your agent. It works with Defender to make sure that it's secure enough, it's not prone to prompt injection, etc. And also with Microsoft Purview. Now we have all these great capabilities. There is also I saw I might forget the exact title, but there is a specific DLP policy coming for Copilot as well. So that's really important, and that's where we will see like all these different tools comes into play in a single centralized hub for IT admins.
We're growing, we're growing, and organizations are really struggling right now with balancing innovation with the security, the auditing, the monitoring, true governance. I've said it over and over again. AI is sort of the evolution of all things innovation. And the idea here is, how can we encourage this innovation? How can we encourage experimentation, impact? And we're not just talking about IT, we're talking about end users, bridging the gap to IT and OT. And how can we do all those things and even break things? To be honest with you, even break things, but do it in a safe and controlled manner. One that we have visibility, observability, governance, all those things. It's interesting. You and I both attended a session, agents as MCP servers. And by the way, I'm still waiting for my PowerPoint MCP server. Looks like I'm going to have to create that on my own. But this was an incredible session.
The challenge right now, let's say, even prior to MCP, you had to, configure each APIs, connectors as a standalone, tool in Copilot Studio or any AI development platform, right? That's super challenging. What if we want to develop similar kind of agent? Do we need to do everything, how we did for the first time? No, that's where MCP comes into play. So, you know, we have this concept of MCP servers, and within MCP servers, we can, have multiple tools, resources, prompts, and we can just connect our agent, which gonna be the client app, to use those resources. But now say we have agent with all these capabilities. Registering this as an MCP gives us another capability. Now we can just easily, uh, export that, easily connect that to other agents. So I think like idea itself, like, by the way, I heard a lot MCP updates. So I think like how we said that 2025 it's gonna be agentic era. I think 2026 will be both agentic and MCP era, because now we have so many tools, but managing them inside MCP servers will be far more effective than managing them as a standalone connector.
We're getting bombarded, and I think we're going to see that with agent. We probably already are, where somebody's like, "Hey, I need an agent for this. I need an agent for this." Well, who's going to build that? Truly, this is for the mass to develop, but that's not going to happen right away. Or if it happens, it's going to be in pretty chaotic. So the IT teams, the development teams, are even non-traditional development teams are going to feel this, and we're going to reach a point where it's like, oh gosh, I can't keep up with innovation. We this is a valid use case. I need to deliver this, but I don't know. So if we think about data, this happens frequently where people like, I need a dashboard for this. I need a report for this. Well, at some point in time, you reach critical mass and you can't deliver. So what happens? Well, what tends to happen then is we have a model and we create a self-service experience where our end users now, in a controlled manner, can pick the data that they need. We've already built out the proper relationships, and then they go build out the dashboard. Easy. I think that this is really because there's still, like you said, Robson, there's still a gap. Like most people aren't going to go out, and if they fumble around, find the right endpoint, get their API in there, then you got to, of course, figure out, like, is it the right endpoint? They're not going to be able to do that. So I see this like agents as MCP evolving into self-service agents. That's what this is going to be. So rinse and repeat. Hey, I have this agent as MCP, give it to somebody. It's controlled, it's governed. Now they can do whatever they want. We've moved past chatbots to co-pilots to agents and now MCP.
100% agree. I would like to talk about agentic retrieval as well. So that's a new concept. It's in preview right now. So Foundry IQ actually using the agentic retrieval in Azure AI Search. So historically, when we build the RAG pipelines or retrieval augmented generation, we would have client application calling Azure AI Search and sending basically prompt. And the Azure AI Search would take that prompt, look at the knowledge source, which index knowledge source, and generate response and send back to the client app. But now it's changing. On top of now that indexing, we will have LLM. Now, how the agents use it, chain of thoughts, that kind of indexing will also be using chain of thoughts. It will not only search uh, one index, but it will run subqueries. Subqueries, one prompt enhanced with the chat history, parameters, and the knowledge source. And now you have multiple subqueries, and it will be re-ranked, selecting the most accurate one, merging results, and results will have not only response, but also references and citations and the reasoning, like how I decided this is the most accurate one, and then sending that back to the client application. So this is how Foundry IQ will be basically using the knowledge base.
Is this the subqueries there? Is that being done in parallel processing or sequential process? Yeah.
It's parallel. It's not sequential. So that's the beauty of this, the agentic retrieval. I mean, we had like hybrid search, vector search, keyword search, but this agentic retrieval or search, it's not sequential. It's parallel. During the one search, you might have like 3 to 4 subqueries doing different searches.
Wow, we're no longer just going out, not just your traditional grab and go. It's so powerful. One thought, as you mentioned, that we talk about when we think about AI right now. I think a lot of it is very much in our world and most of the corporate world. I think we think about text-based outcomes where we ask a question in text and we get a result in text. It gives us the information that we need. Not always, but most of the time. And I thought one of the announcements there, I wasn't going to talk about this, but but I think it's important, is the inclusion of Sora 2 models into Copilot. Now, that may not be big for most. You may say, well, that's great. We've got a powerful new model for creating video in Copilot. Fair, fair. What I see though is this is a strategic move from Microsoft. What we're really looking at is, okay, you've got a tool here that's very much catering to the business end user. It's fine. But as I mentioned in a previous post, I met a man by the name of Eric Archer a few years back at an AI conference in Boston. And his whole business is built off of creating media with AI. And so I think this is very much a strategic move to say, okay, hey, how can we cater now to the filmmaker, the composer, the multimedia producer? And so I think what we're going to start to see is a shift and in multimodal response to really cater, really give us some solid tools to be able to create those things, not just for the business end user, but the media professional as well. So I thought that was extremely powerful, Robson.
I agree. 100% agree. I mean, that's a huge industry, right? We can't ignore that. So, no, I'm glad that you brought that up.
All right. So final thoughts.
I mean, like key takeaways for me, governance is going to be foundational for agent development. And finally, we have all the tools we need.
Yeah.
Second, for me, is the MCP integration with the agentic apps. It's gonna be really, really important. And third one is for me is the intelligence layer. And you mentioned work IQ, Foundry IQ, and Fabric IQ. By the way, I'm still wrapping my head around Fabric IQ.
And the
Um, but like all these three things will enable us as an architects, developers, or makers, or even end users to get the most out of agentic systems.
For me, it's no surprise this intelligent layer is a massive advancement. But to your point, we have a lot of unknowns. Like I want to see exactly what's happening in the back end. How does it retain them? Well, what does the memory look like? And then it's if it's going to use more data, then okay, what about data hygiene now? So it's funny because when we got Copilot, we said, oh no, it's not going to create any new problems per se. It does some, but it is shining a spotlight on some of the issues that we've had. So that was the first issue. Now we're bringing in more data. So what does it look like to ensure, is it Agent 365? Is it some other tool? Like, how does that orchestrate it? How's it going to orchestrate this in a cohesive manner that is well governed, but also makes sense to the user? I can't just have pulling data from Foundry and Fabric and in 365 and saying, here you go. That's not going to work out well. We know our end users. We know us as well. Like we don't have the best data at times. So for me, it's exactly those two things. Like, how do we do this in a way that feels human? When I get a response, great that I have all that data, but is it going to be good data? Is it going to be a good response, the outcome that I desired? And can we govern this appropriately? And it gets me thinking for sure. Appreciate everybody listening in. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.
So